alright? Will this darkness ever turn to light?
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? We're going to do a quick live stream here and just go over a couple options that we've got out there for eating while you watch Twitch or YouTube or even watching the Super Bowl. I know for people like me, I've struggled with weight for a long time in my life and recently kind of found a lifestyle that works for me. And it's always difficult during parties and big games and all that fun stuff to find something that not only tastes good, makes you feel like you're not an outcast because you're not eating the wings and all that stuff, but also something that you could give to your other party goers and they're going to be like, oh, this is pretty good. So we're going to go over two options today. One healthy option and one not so healthy option, if you will, that I used to enjoy years ago. I will be including in the chat here the link to all of these recipes and what you'll need to do them. I'll also include them in the description, so that way you can actually go to them, cook them, try them out yourself, let me know how they are. So I know we've got a couple people in the chat, so if you're in the chat, I just sent over the link there to get to those recipes. Feel free to take a look at them, feel free to ask me some questions, and yeah, so let's get started. So the first item we have here is going to be our healthy option. So if you're looking for that unhealthy option, stay tuned, we'll get to that next. So our unhealthy option is going to be stromboli, right? Really awesome. A lot of folks love pizza and things like this. Well, this stromboli that we're going to talk about in a little bit is big. You can feed a lot of people with it. Again, not that healthy, very greasy, but we'll be able to feed a lot of people with it. So it's something that you can make for your guests who may not be watching that waistline, and then we're going to go over right now something that you can eat in order to help watch that waistline. So for what you can make that tastes good and is healthy, the keto diet has been going around for a while. A lot of people call it a fad diet. A lot of people call it, it doesn't work. It's not good. To be 100% honest with you, I've counted calories. I've done Atkins. I've done the no fat. I've done the low carb. I've done all of them. Okay. I feel like junk. And the worst part is when you finally get tired of it, you're done with the diet, you go back to your normal eating, and all that weight that you worked so hard and sacrificed so hard to get off is now back. And maybe even more. Personally, for me, the keto style diet has helped me keep my pounds off. And also for me, I don't know if it's the way my body metabolizes food, but it has actually allowed me to feel more energetic each day, have more energy. It helps me not skip the gym because, I actually want to get up in the morning and go to the gym. I don't know what it is about this diet, or as I call it, a lifestyle change, but I feel great. And it also allows me to eat a lot of things that normally when you're watching your weight, you can't eat. So keto pizza, what is it and how does it work? So the keto diet is focused around a few things being high fat content, which kind of seems weird when you're trying to lose weight, a medium protein content, which is really good if you're working out. It also makes you feel more full, so you don't have to eat very often, and a low carb content. Right, so you can do a lot of research out there on Google and the internet and find out all you need to know about the keto lifestyle. But what we're going to talk about today is keto pizza, or low carb pizza. And when you're probably looking at this recipe, you're like, whoa, this is the wrong recipe that I've got up in front of me here. I'll have to update the document. I apologize. There we go. I actually named the stromboli recipe. Let's fix that right now. I named the stromboli recipe keto pizza. So the name on the document is correct. The name in the document is not correct. I'm sitting here looking, that is not healthy. So we'll do stromboli here. Okay, so let me look at the right recipe so I can talk to you about it. So the keto or low carb pizza, you're going to need mozzarella cheese, right? We talked about the high fat content. The reason for the high fat content is you're trying to get your body to stop using carbohydrates as its form of energy and start to use fat. That's going to do two things. One, it's going to help you burn that fat. And two, you're going to be able to consume more fat because that's what your body's using to burn off, as energy. If you use carbohydrates, they'll store it as fat, where fat is coming in as fat and it's going to use it as energy. So it's really cool. Again, do all the research you want to about the keto lifestyle, but this stuff tastes really good. So low carb pizza. If you have any questions about this as we're going through, shoot it over in chat. I know we got some folks on YouTube and on Twitch TV tuning in right now. I will have the links to the Google Docs for these on the videos once they're done. I already did send the link over in chat once, so feel free to check it out. It is a public folder, so all the recipes that I'm going to be doing is there, so you can bookmark it if you want. So we're going to need mozzarella cheese, okay? About 8 ounces, 2 cups, so a good amount of mozzarella cheese, and cheese tastes good. If you don't like mozzarella cheese, that's fine. Use whatever cheese that you want. Next, we need almond flour. Now, one thing is true, when you are eating healthier, it does seem like you're spending a little bit more money, and that's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine, because honestly, we always say about, computers and everything else, you get what you pay for, right? You want good health, you're going to have to pay a little bit for it. So 3/4 of a cup of almond flour. You can get this at a normal grocery store. Now the next item down here is a husk powder. Now, you can get this online. The document actually has links to where you can order these both online. But stores like Walmart and some health food stores, Trader Joe's, they will carry this. So pick it up. You don't need that much of it. So I know it comes in a jar, so it's going to last you a while. You're going to need some cream cheese, egg, Italian seasoning, salt, pepper, and then the toppings. So toppings for me, again, mozzarella cheese. What? Why do we have more mozzarella cheese? Well, you'll see in a minute. A half cup of Rayo's tomato sauce. Now, I personally like making my own tomato sauce. So if you like to make your own tomato sauce, that's absolutely fine. Just keep in mind that on the document where you see the nutritional facts of this pizza, it may adjust a little bit based on the tomato sauce that you use because, again, higher sugar means more net carbs. So just keep that in mind. But I do like to make my own tomato sauce. You're going to need some pepperoni. Now, this recipe calls for 16 slices of pepperoni. With the size of pizza we're going to make, it covers the pizza, right? There's not too much cheese area, if you will, that's uncovered by meat. And then if you do like oregano, some oregano for the top. This is going to make you roughly a 6-slice pizza, and the nutritional value 335 calories per slice, 27 grams of fat, 3.2 grams of net carbs, and 18 grams of protein. So really good for you, to be honest with you. Now again, you're looking at that fats number probably and you're thinking, ooh, that's really high. Again, this is keto pizza. We're focusing on a high fat content diet, medium protein diet, low carb diet. Get your body away from carbohydrates as your energy source and onto the fat. It'll help you out, I promise. All right, so how are we going to make this? Well, we've got all this mozzarella cheese, that's going to have to be important. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're actually going to take the mozzarella cheese and put it into the microwave. And why you're going to do that is, and this is just the 2 cups at the top. Obviously, you've got the 1 cup later for toppings, but this is the 8 ounces that we talked about in the pizza crust on the recipe that you can find on the link. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to melt it in a bowl. Now, you want to be careful when you're trying to melt the cheese. Again, about 90 seconds should be able to melt it, but keep an eye on it. Depending on the microwave and its settings, 90 seconds might be too long, might be too little. What you're trying to avoid is you don't want the browning of the cheese around the side. You want to melt the cheese, but not brown it. Browning the cheese in the microwave is overcooking that cheese, and what's going to happen is it's going to quickly turn hard as a rock, and it's going to be hard to work with. So again, just melt the cheese in the microwave. If you start to see a little bit of browning on the edge, fine. If you start to see, all the way around browning, stop. Stir it up, keep melting it. But again, we don't want browning on our cheese or it's going to turn really hard. After you get your cheese melted in the bowl, you're going to add the cream cheese into this, okay? You're going to add the cream cheese and the egg into the mixture of the molten mozzarella, if you will. Now, we are adding an egg into this, right? So if you just add an egg into the hot mozzarella and just let it sit, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get scrambled eggs on top. So you're going to get that cool cream cheese, the cool egg into a warm mozzarella cheese. Start stirring it. Don't stop stirring it. Get all those cool ingredients incorporated with the mozzarella cheese, and what's going to happen is it's going to bring that temperature down on the mozzarella cheese. If you're a little scared that you're going to get, a scrambled egg on it, because your cheese is too hot, let it sit for a little bit. What you don't want to happen, though, is you don't want that cheese to go from the kind of molten form back into a solid form. You don't want that. You want the cheese to be very pliable when you add the cream cheese and the egg. From here, we're going to add our dry ingredients. So that's the almond flour and the husk powder. We're also going to add our Italian seasoning here, salt and pepper, right into that cheese mixture, and we're going to mix it up. As you start to mix the dough now with the almond flour and all the dry ingredients, it's going to start to ball, right? It's going to start to turn into what we consider what a dough is like. Once it gets to the point where it's cool enough, work it with your hands. Knead it with your hands just like you would a normal dough that you're making once it becomes cool enough. Okay? So once you get that dough kneaded into a nice ball, right? So you got it. You can set that aside for a couple moments and get out your baking utensil, if you will. So I prefer a pizza stone. I personally think it cooks the pizza a lot better, but you can also use a cookie sheet if you don't have a pizza stone. Just keep in mind that if you use a cookie sheet, we are going to have to grease that cookie sheet with non-stick spray, because what's going to happen is that pizza crust may not come off the way we want it to. So if you do use the cookie sheet, which is absolutely fine, go ahead and use some non-stick spray on it. We're going to take that pizza dough that we made, that ball of dough, and we're going to spread it out into our cooking surface. So either that pizza stone or the greased cookie sheet. Spread it out to the likeness that if you want thin crust, spread it out thin. If you want a little bit thicker crust, thicken it up. Just keep in mind, depending on thin and thick crust, I personally like thin crust myself. But if you make a little thicker crust, keep in mind your nutrient facts might be a little bit off, right? So what you can do is multiply the nutritional facts at the top of this. You can multiply it together, and you can figure out how many pieces you're going to get. Because, we're still using the same ingredients, We're just making it thicker and maybe more concentrated. Okay, so once you get the pizza dough, just the dough, spread out to the shape and size and thickness that you want. If it's thin crust like I like, you're going to bake it for 10 minutes. If it's thicker, you might have to bake it a little bit longer, but I'll show you how we can tell here. We'll talk about that in a minute. After 10 minutes, you'll notice the dough is starting to get cooked, but it's not quite there yet. So we're going to flip it over, take the pizza dough out of the oven and flip it over. Once you've flipped it over, cook it for about another 2 to 4 minutes or until you have it to the point where it's almost cooked to where you want it to be, but not quite, because we got to put it back in the oven for one more go. So don't get it to the point where if you put it back in, it's going to overcook it, but definitely make sure you don't have really doughy parts of that crust. And if you like really crispy crust, get it almost to that crispy part because we are going to put it back in. Again, if you have a thicker crust, you may have to go a little bit longer each side. I prefer thin. This recipe's kind of built for thin crust, but adjust how you want. So remove the pizza crust again after the second cook, and now's when you get to add your toppings. So we're going to go ahead and put the tomato sauce across the top. We're going to add that cheese and pepperoni. Now, you might do the pepperoni before the cheese. It depends on who you are. I personally like my cheese above my pepperoni, but some people like those pepperonis on top. So just kind of adjust it. This is also where if you wanted to add more veggies and stuff like that, this is where you can add it. Green peppers, mushrooms, add any veggies you want. Spinach if you want, you can do that. You can also substitute those pepperonis out with maybe some grilled chicken or something like that if pepperoni's a little too greasy for you. Again, it does adjust the nutrients at the top. However, again, just keep in mind, our focus is the high fat, medium protein, low carb. So if you're switching protein for protein, you should be good to go. Once you get all your toppings arranged the way you want, bake it again for 3 to 5 minutes until the cheese is nicely melted. Pull that out, let it cool for just a moment, and then cut it into slices. If you like oregano, this is where you'd put the oregano across the top. And enjoy. It's really tasty. You will be surprised looking at this recipe and saying, how is this healthy? First off, because the nutrients in it look really good. Secondly, how did I just make a pizza without like flour and that kind of stuff? It works. Trust me. It actually tastes quite good. So give it a try. Give it a try. It might be one of your new favorites. But again, probably not going to be feeding like an entire party. You might need several of these to feed a party. But again, if you're cooking something for a party, cook something for everyone else and then cook this for you. That way you're still eating what appears to be kind of a party style food, but you can say that you're eating healthy and everyone else is not. So you can stick to your diet. All right, so now everyone's favorite, the unhealthy option. Davram's famous stromboli. I have made this so many times. It was actually hard for me to write this down because I usually cook it right off the top of my head and I never write things down. So it actually took me a while to actually compile this. It's not written anywhere else. This is the only place it's written down. So what is this? What is it? So many people have had stromboli in an Italian restaurant or something like that. Same concept. Now, this is kind of a mix between like a stromboli and a calzone almost. So just keep in mind, it's very good and it feeds a lot of people, right? So first off, what we're going to need. We're going to need more of that mozzarella cheese. Again, 8 ounces of mozzarella cheese for this or any other cheese that you like. I prefer the mozzarella. You're also going to need 2 Pillsbury pizza crusts, the non-cooked version. So you know the ones that come in the can when you're in the refrigerated section and you kind of start to peel that little paper off and it goes boom! And it scares everyone, scares me every single time. That's the pizza crust that you want. You don't want the pre-cooked pizza crust or the partially cooked pizza crust. You want the pizza crust that comes in a can that's still completely doughy and uncooked. You're going to need a lot of meat. There is a lot of meat in this thing. So if you have meat lovers coming to your party, make this. They will love you. Okay? I usually use a half a pound of deli sliced pepperoni. The big pepperoni. Use the half a pound of deli sliced salami. Big big salami. I get this usually pretty thinly sliced. I like it to be nice and thinly sliced. You can adjust that the way you want. If it's thinly sliced, it'll cook up nicely. If it's a little thicker, you still might have a little tough bite there, but that's absolutely fine. And then here's kind of your choice. You can use 1 pound of either ground beef or Italian sausage. I prefer Italian sausage. If you use ground beef, you can season it with some taco seasoning. Just works the same way, just like if you'd be making tacos. I prefer the Italian sausage though. You're going to need an egg, some butter, and then here's where you're optional. This is kind of your filler, right? So black forest ham, green peppers, mushrooms, onions, whatever veggies you want in it. Again, there's a lot of people who are like, I want this really nasty, greasy food for my Super Bowl or gaming parties or whatever. You might be able to sneak some veggies in there, but just be careful on the veggies. Again, if you're making it for yourself, add all the veggies you want. Add all the veggies you want. If you're making it for a party, depending on your guests, you might not want to put the veggies in, just because they might not like the veggies. So how are we going to make this one? All right. So what we're going to do is start by completely cooking either the ground beef or the Italian sausage. We want to get this out of the way first because we don't want that meat to be extremely hot when we go to assemble, or it's going to start to cook our dough too early, and we don't want that. It'll get stringy and slimy, and it's just not what we want. So completely cook your ground beef or Italian sausage just as you normally would. Make sure it's all the way done. Drain it. Right? So this is where the time you add garlic or taco seasoning to it, whatever spices you want, whatever spices you like to spice up your meat. This is where you would do it. Once it's all the way thoroughly cooked, go ahead and drain the grease off of it. Yes, we are draining the grease, but I promise you with the pepperoni and the salami in there, you're going to get plenty more grease. So drain this grease off. It'll help you out. During this time, while the meat is starting to cool off, this is where you could saute up all your veggie filler. So your onions, mushrooms, green peppers, whatever you want. Just cook until tender with olive oil right on the stovetop. Real simple. Okay? Set that aside to cool once it is. So again, we're going to cook the veggies if you're going to use them. We're going to cook the meat and we're going to let it cool. We don't want these things to be hot when we start to assemble. Open one of those pizza doughs and spread it out on a greased cookie sheet in a long rectangle. So don't make it like a pizza like this. Most of those in the pop cans are already kind of rectangular. What we want to do is we don't want to leave it that size because they come out like this, right? They will stretch. That dough will stretch. Stretch it out, right? Stretch that dough out because we're going to need plenty of space. As you can see, we've got a lot of stuff to put into this thing. So stretch it out. Stretch it out on that cookie sheet. Use all of the space that you need to. You also don't want to spread it out all the way so it's super thin because we've got another pizza dough that we have to stretch slightly bigger than that first one. So, give yourself plenty of space and you'll have to kind of adjust this, how thick and how dense you want, your dough. But like your crust around it. Some people like a really crusty, really thick dough around their stromboli. Other people like it thin. So just kind of adjust on how you like either thick or thin crust pizza. Same kind of concept with the stromboli. So once we get that all spread out, we're going to preheat our oven based on the pizza dough. So our cooking time is all going to be based on that pizza dough can. So you're going to want to save that pizza dough can so you can see what's going on. The meat's already cooked aside from what we got from the deli. So we don't have to worry about cooking that meat through. All we really are going to have to do is worry about cooking the dough. So follow the instructions on that pizza dough can and that will tell you how long or short to cook your stromboli. Layer the pepperoni, salami. If you got ham, put that in there. Put it right down on that in some layers. You can swap it over like the Subway style where you go salami, pepperoni, ham, salami, pepperoni, ham. I don't care. What I usually do, I go one layer of pepperoni, one layer of salami, one layer of ham. It's great. It works for me. Okay. After you have the cool meats on there, go ahead and put your what's warm or we don't want hot, or your cooled meat that you cooked earlier right on top of that. So we've got this nice pile. Got this nice pile right over the top, okay? This is where you put your veggie fillers in, right on top of all that meat. We are building a meat mountain on this pizza dough, okay? Meat mountain. We have created it. Meat mountain exists on your stovetop, right there, or your countertop on that pizza dough. It's like Everest. Meat everywhere. Then we can put the veggies right on top of that and then top with your cheese. You can use sliced mozzarella cheese. That's absolutely fine. Or sliced cheddar, whatever you want. I prefer the shredded mozzarella. I think it kind of seeps into everything a little bit better. But use whatever cheese you like. Okay, so once we have our meat mountain covered with the snow caps of mozzarella cheese, now we're going to use that second pizza dough. So open the second pizza dough up. Again, watch out, it's going to pop. Okay, and then stretch it. You need to stretch the second pizza dough slightly bigger than the first. And the reason for that is we're going to lay the second pizza dough right over top of Meat Mountain with the snow caps of mozzarella cheese. It needs to be able to cover the entire mountain of meat on all sides and reach the bottom dough. Because what you're going to do is you're going to put it over the top. It's over Meat Mountain. And then you're going to crimp it with the other dough all the way around. So you're basically making a pocket that's full of meat and goodness. Right? Meat and goodness. So when you're assembling the lower dough, you should still be able to see a little bit of a dough ring all the way around your meat mountain. That way you've got something to crimp, right, all the way around. So you've now created what is going to be a long, cylindrical meat wrap with cheese, right? A stromboli. You've created this now. It is going to be right there on your pan. One side's going to be flat. The top is going to be rounded. Right? Now we're going to take our butter. We're going to microwave it for a few seconds just until it becomes melted. We're going to take an egg, put it in a small bowl, whisk the egg so we combine the whites and the yolks. Then you're going to add that butter, let it cool for a little bit, because remember we just talked about in keto pizza, we don't want scrambled eggs. Let it cool for a little bit, and as you're pouring that warm melted butter in, whisk it so you don't get, you're bringing the temperature down, you're kind of evening out the temperature, you're not cooking the eggs. That's not what we want to do. Not what we want to do. So once we've got all that stuff whisked together, we've got our butter and we've got our eggs whisked together. Use a basting brush and dip into that bowl of melted goodness and brush it right over all the top, the sides, and the ends of your stromboli. Okay? Make sure it's got a nice glisten on all parts of that bread. At this time, if you like extra salt, you can put some just a little bit of crushed salt on top. You can put some pepper, some oregano, any sort of little spices. Don't go over because you have a flavor-packed meat mountain loaf of stromboli in there. So don't go overboard on the dry spices because you don't want to subtract from from what's inside. Put that right in the oven and cook it for the instructions that are on the pizza the pizza roll. So that's usually about, I would say, 15-20 minutes, maybe on the high side. Basically what you want to do is the pizza can will probably cook it slightly under. You want to cook that in there on that temperature until all sides are golden brown. That's when you know it's done. Don't pull it out when you still can see a little doughiness anywhere. Pull it out when all sides are golden brown. You don't want to burn it, but just wait until it's a nice golden brown everywhere. If you like a crisp, let it get a little bit more brown, but again, just watch it so you don't burn it. Pull it out, slice it. Usually back in the day when I would make this for folks, this recipe could feed probably anywhere between 6 to 10 people, depending on how many slices people wanted. I would probably lean closer to the 6 side because obviously when you're watching the game, you're probably drinking, you're gonna get hungry, and this is a nice greasy filler like pizza, so people will eat a lot of it. So probably 6 to 8 people is what this will feed, and they will be very happy with it. This is a great family meal as well. Again, really easy to make, real quick to make, just like the keto pizza, and allows you to get something out there for your family. All right. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat or anything like that, so I hope everyone enjoyed this. I hope everyone has a great Super Bowl Sunday today. If the Super Bowl's not what your cup of tea, I know the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour is finishing up its final day today. I will also be back here probably within the hour to stream some World of Warcraft and play some games with my viewers. So if you would, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching us on YouTube, click that follow button down there on Twitch TV. And if you have any questions about this recipe, please, by all means, you can email me. That's Davram or davramgaming@gmail.com. I'll answer your questions. Again, I will post this this Google Doc inside the video description so people can get this in the future, specifically if you're watching it again on YouTube. But thank you very much, and you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day.